Two kinds of verification or validation: Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and Fair Credit Reporting Act. Brought to you by yourlegalapp.com, your advantage if you are being sued by debt collectors. We've spent much of our time talking about verification here, and what we've meant is verification under the Fair Debt Collection Practices, the FDCPA for the most part. But there is another kind of verification or validation that you can use, validation under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA. We talked briefly about that in this video and discuss how you can use both forms of validation to your advantage if you're being pursued by debt collectors or are trying to clear up your credit report. The two kinds of verification or validation are different and they apply in different circumstances. It's important to keep them straight. You can use them both, but they are completely separate. They apply to possibly different persons under different circumstances, give different rights, and have different time requirements. And actually, that's what makes them work together. They're not simply overlapping. Under the FDCPA, when a debt collector first contacts you on a debt, it's required by law to notify you of your right to dispute the debt and to require validation or verification. The two words are used interchangeably in this law. And the requirement is quite simple, really, in general. First, the debt collector must notify you of the right to dispute and require verification, and these are actually different things. And then the debt collector must verify the debt if you ask in writing within the 30 days provided. And if you dispute the debt in writing within 30 days, that's also treated as a request to verify. But disputing and requesting verification are actually different things. If you dispute the debt, let's say on a phone call when they call you, that's simply a dispute, which they have to note in your in your records and in the credit report, but they don't have to verify unless you either dispute or specifically request verification in writing within the time provided. If you don't ask in writing, they must note that you disputed, but they don't have to verify, as I just said. Just to make it clear, it's you who have the 30 days to ask after getting the notification of your right. The debt collector doesn't literally have to do anything at all and also has no time limit. It's just that they can't make another attempt to collect on the debt until they verify it, if you demand verification in writing or if you dispute it in writing. Exactly what verifying is not completely clear. It would appear that contacting the original creditor and establishing that the debt is yours would be enough. Even this low burden often seems to be too much for them, and possibly that's because the second owner of the debt, if there is one, has no relationship to the original creditor and simply can't get the debt verified. But there could be other reasons. One never really knows with debt collectors. Whatever. Asking for verification is often enough to make them go away. That's the point. If they try to collect without having verified, that violates the FDCPA, and that in turn might allow you to stop a lawsuit brought against you or bring one against them, or both. Remember, however, that when a debt collector files suit against you without having contacted you first in some other way, this is not a first contact. The filing of a lawsuit is not a first contact, which makes notification and warning necessary. If you get served, you have to answer the lawsuit or move to dismiss it or address it in some way. It's not enough to request verification instead. They act differently. Now let's talk about validation provided by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA. This is your right to dispute an item on your credit report. You do this after looking at your credit report and seeing something that isn't positive. Let's say you see that a debt collector is reporting that you owe a debt. Remember, your right to verification under the FDCPA only comes when the debt collector contacts you to try to collect the debt. But you can dispute a line item on your credit report at any time. There are rules, and there are better and worse ways to do it, but it does not depend on the other side being a debt collector or having tried to collect the debt, and it doesn't have to happen within 30 days of an attempt to collect the debt either. When you seek verification or validation under the FDCPA, the debt collector has to verify the debt before making further attempts to collect. When you dispute the debt under the FCRA, on the other hand, you're forcing the company to investigate the debt and to show that what it's saying to the credit reporting agencies is true and why. If the company reporting you cannot validate the debt, which is much higher burden than under the FDCPA, it's required to withdraw the offending credit reference, but it could still try to collect the debt. If it does withdraw a bad credit reference, that might be a type of admission that it can't prove the debt if the case goes to a lawsuit, but it probably isn't controlling on the case. That's because validation or verification of a credit report is not the same as proving that the debt is enforceable under the law. Those are two different things. It's part of an administrative type of right, and it has different burden of proof and different things to prove. But if they don't do it, you can sue them for that. Here's a strategy you might find useful. If you receive a bill from a junk debt buyer, a company that bought your debt from the original creditor, in other words, you should send a request for verification under the FDCPA right away. Then you should get your credit report. If the debt collector is reporting your debt on the credit report, you will want to dispute the credit report and seek validation under the FCRA also separately. Remember, these are completely different rights. You should not try to do the FCRA verification first because it takes too much time. To do the credit dispute, right, you have to get your credit report and dispute it with the credit bureau before you dispute it with the debt collector under the FCRA if you want to protect all of your rights. In other words, you will get a chance to dispute with the credit bureau and with the debt collector, but you have to do the credit bureau first. And all of that takes time. You don't have enough time to work your way through the FCRA before asserting your FDCPA rights because you only have 30 days under the FDCPA, remember? On the other hand, if the company does not verify under the FDCPA, which you try first, that would be worth mentioning as a basis for your credit dispute and your later FCRA actions. Plus, when you get the first letter from the debt collector, you don't even know whether it's reporting you on your credit report. They often don't, So stay tuned for more on what you can expect to get from the companies when you dispute the credit report. For more on your rights against debt collectors or to start the process of restoring your credit, go to our site, Your Legal Leg Up. Protect what's yours and don't let the debt collectors rip you off. Debt collection is a social justice issue. Take action to protect yourself from the debt collectors and help others do the same. Please like this video, share it with anybody you think could use it, subscribe, and comment, as all these things help others find our materials. YourLegalLegUp.com